They've changed the message.
Well, I also noticed that we get the option when someone turns on recording to continue or not. At least on the program I
Oh.
have. Not sure
Probably.
why, but I guess because some people don't want to be recorded, but
Yeah, when you turn the recording on, a message comes up on our screen and you can either approve to continue or not.
yes, yeah, that's the one I get, yeah.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's okay.
Coffee works fast.
Yeah. That's right. True, true.
Glad it works well.
Yes. Working is the
That's true.
operative word.
That's true.
Okay. Well,
So Richard's our only
yeah,
virtual.
I don't know what
Happened to everybody else.
exactly happened to Bill. Nick discovered that he had a doctor's appointment that he had made months ago
ago.
that he'd completely forgotten about. And I understand about
yeah.
that.
And when you make a month, you're not gonna change it at the last minute.
Not when it takes you that long.
No.
to get everyone. So, Richard, you're the only one on the screen at the moment.
I'll be good.
I know you will. So, anyone arrive with a question? How's extending your mind through your body?
It keeps, yeah. Keeps getting, I put a lot of energy this week into the breathing, getting that in sync. But I think that's, practice brings progress, what can you say?
Okay.
And
Well-
you need to practice because I need the progress, I guess that's kind of,
Yeah. So you're feeling some progress.
yes, I am feeling some progress.
Good.
If I'm standing solely rather than doing the movement, it's a whole lot better.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I can actually feel something happening, but when I get the motion involved in the up and down and the breathing, et cetera, it's too much at this point to
Yeah,
find
so-
that energy, moving.
Yep.
So.
Well, and that's good though, the fact that when you're just standing,
Yeah.
you are able to experience that. And with practice, when you can get your mind out of the way,
Yeah.
and allow it to
Yeah,
extend
yeah,
through the
yeah.
body, you'll probably be able to begin to do it in the movement as well.
Yeah, I think the extending is going well. I'm working on making it smoother. It seems to be, like your focus kind of shifts down the body. It feels like changing gears,
Yeah, yeah.
So trying to get kind of a smooth sense.
Just as you're trying to get a smooth sense in the movement itself. so.
Right.
I think that we are at the point where we now have enough pieces that it's a matter of, okay, now we kind of have that, but now we have to separate that back out again to, okay, I get this one and then at least that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that our mind, like you said, so I need to get the breathing more, I'm thinking too much about it. So, and then putting it in sync and then, so it's like, okay, that's it. Yeah, it's not working all together. So we're pulling it apart again and then but we know where we're going and trying to put it back together.
Yeah, good. Anything for you, Richard?
I I get to a point where I'm trying to coordinate everything and then I decide I've got to forget about it and just move.
Mm.
So I'm trying to feel like a tingling in all the different parts of my body as I think my mind through the different parts. But years ago, when we were doing a lot of Taoist meditation process, I was more successful at feeling the energy circulate around my body. But so I know it's there, and there again, it's the practice element always is an obstacle for me.
Yep, yep. Well, it's easier in sitting or standing than it is moving, so no question about that. So kind of sorry that the other Bill and Nick are not here. Some of this is going to be review for you guys, and some of it would be really helpful probably to them, but review is always a good thing.
And they have the recording.
And they have the recording, thanks to Joanne. So we're going to talk about the Kwa to begin with today. So the Kwa is extremely important in Qigong. The body has three primary energy channels, the left, right, and central channels, as well as another 4,000 to 5,000 that basically are being generated by those three channels. And the Kwa is the connecting point for the energy going up and down the left and right channels from your legs to your torso and head and arms and back down the body. So it is very important, even just in terms of making the energy in your body be smooth. It's also important because it is more or less right in the center of your body. The lower dantian, of course, is exactly in the center, but the Kwa is not that much lower than the lower dantian. So if you drew a line through the Kwa, you have just pretty much the same amount of body above and below that point. The Kwa is also essentially responsible for regulating the Qi flow coming from your torso and your lower dantian down to your feet and back up again. And also the Kwa is necessary because if it is not moving well, it cannot regulate the way the spine moves. And the Kwa is very important in terms of how the spine moves between your tailbone, your belly button, and your diaphragm. The Kwa is also important because it is the necessary connection point when you want to have the weight transfer and sink your energy from the top of your head through your torso to your feet. The Kwa is the necessary connection point for that because if it's not working well, your energy will get jammed somewhere around your midsection. So the Kwa is very important. So with the four of you, I think you all know where the Kwa is, but let me just be specific about this. So the Kwa encompasses the hip joint. And we very often focus on the inguinal crease as being functionally the area we're talking about when we talk about the Kwa, but it really contains this whole area. There are a number of different parts to it, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but it is this major connection point, as we were saying, between the legs and the torso. So that's where the Kwa is. However, there are three ways in which you can do a Kwa fold. Okay, so all of you have done Kwa folds and Kwa squats, but let's be clear, we actually have three ways to do a Kwa fold. It could be just folding forward at the Kwa. And we often use, when we're talking about the movement of the qua, we're often talk about opening and closing in a sense of a folding motion. So for instance, the qua is open at this point, but as you bend forward, it begins to close and then it opens. You can also bend and stretch the qua, fold the qua, just sitting down. Could just be a simple dropping, as we are doing in movement 1. That is the movement we're actually using in movement 1. The other one is the fact that opening and closing of the qua can create rotation. So when you turn to one side, the qua tends to close on that side, and the other one opens to cause that. And when this one opens, it can turn you to the other side. So those are the 3 ways that you can have a qua fold. Okay. Anybody have a question about that? I don't think that's new, actually, for the 4 of you. It might be for Nick or Bill. So, having done that, some of the common mistakes that people make in doing the qua fold is when they bend forward, they allow the buttocks to go back. When they come up, they don't return to their original position. They come up with their pelvis pushed backwards. So one of the things that you can do to practice a qua fold is to stand against a wall, because you should be able, and obviously I don't have a wall right here that I can do in front of the camera, unfortunately, but you don't, when you do a bending qua fold, you don't want the pelvis to go back. You want the pelvis to stay where it is. And if you do that, that will probably limit how far forward you go, because at some point you will get out of balance. Not necessarily the case when you simply sink. And this one is really important because you have to have that sense of sitting back, so that while you have the knees bending, you don't push the knees forward. You're actually sitting on that stool behind you. And obviously the rotation is another whole issue that we'll come to when we get to movement 3. So, the biggest single thing you're looking for when you go down is you want to have a feeling from your spine and from your tailbone that something is going through your legs to your feet. And when you come up, something goes from your feet up to your tailbone and up to your spine. So what I'd like you to do is to stand up and do 5 of each of those 3, just so I can see. I don't care what order you do them in. You can do them either way. And try to feel that sinking of the energy.
Try not to push your pelvis back, Richard. Better. Good.
You'll let your back collapse. And those of you who know this, the C curve, don't do that at the moment. Keep the back straight.
Okay.
Not at the moment. Good. So that looks pretty good. For most of anybody have a question about doing that? Okay. So now we're going to talk about doing a qua squat. So it's done with a qua fold and bending forward. And as a matter of fact, this is what we're going to do in movement 2. So when you begin just standing in Wujibu, you want to just drop the weight of your body through your hips until it's planting your feet into the earth without going physically lower. You want to drop everything that makes your feet plant into the earth. In Chinese, there are 2 different thoughts or terms about this. The word chun means to sink your chi, which does not require any physical movement. And the other one is duin, where you sink your chi, but your pelvis also goes down. Your hips are physically going down and physically rising up. Duin includes chun, but chun does not include duin. So when you do a qua squat, you're doing a duin movement. What you want to do when you do this is to roll your pelvis slightly forward and upward so that it makes the vertebrae of your lower back stretch apart. You'll find that if you do, this actually will make it a little more difficult for you to squat down. However, that rotation of your pelvis forward has the sense, actually increases the sense of the energy moving from your spine right down into your feet. You may find it harder to sink at first, but obviously with practice, it will begin to be a little bit easier. So the qua squat includes both a qua fold, but also a qua fold this way. So really, in a way, it's a combination of 2 qua folds. So what you have is a little tucking of the pelvis so that you can go down, making both of those movements And ideally having both of them be roughly equal. So you do not want to do a little bit of squat and a lot of fold or the reverse. You want them to be equal. There is no benefit, particular benefit, nor are you going to get a gold star for sinking lower. However, you do want this to be a relaxed movement, not something where you're struggling with it. So you're not trying to go 100% as far as you can with either of those parts, but only 70% as usual. So try a quad squat. Try just a few. You don't have to do a whole lot. You all have done some before. This is not anything new for the four of you, but for Bill and Nick, you should practice this. Let your arms completely relax. And at the moment, keep your weight in the center of your foot. Okay, that looks pretty good. Anybody have a question there? No? Okay. So another way of thinking about the quad is to think of something inside your body that doesn't really have a recognizable physical tissue. We call it an energy gate. And an energy gate in the joint, in that hip joint, but in the quad, is like a, in Bruce's term, a gushy ball. Okay. When it closes, it condenses, and when it opens, it expands. Going down just by folding the quad will influence the gate that's in the quad. But opening and closing means you are going to go directly for the energetic gate that's right inside the quad. So if you are doing a quad squat, it's going to happen because the quad is closing and shrinking, and that's how you're going down. And then when it opens and expands, it actually shoots energy down to your legs and up. So when it closes, it brings the energy from your feet and your head to your quad, and from your left and right channel to your quad. When you're doing a quad fold, everything you're doing is on the surface muscles. But when you're doing a quad squat, you're not using the surface to do it. You're using what's inside the body. So if you're going to close the quad, you want your hips to be rolled under. And while this makes it a little bit harder, it is still possible to do. So when you close your quad, you want to use it to go down. And when you reach a point that's about 70% as far as you can go after closing it, you now have to open it from the inside to come up. So this is the difference between a quad squat and bending and stretching the quad. On the surface is where the bending and stretching of your quad is occurring. When you start talking about where the left and right channels are, the quad point and the shoulder's nest are markers, but the other marker is the energy of the hand going inside the body and how deeply you have to go inside the body so that these two intersect each other. So when you do a qua squat, the motion of the qua is internal, it's not external. Bending and stretching the qua is external. So this is how you want to think about the qua squat. When we just talk about physically doing it, that's one thing. But when you think about the energy gate, now, and those of you who've done more work with the energy gates, remember that actually the energy gate is different from the cavity. There are two different locations at that joint. We won't worry about cavities at the moment, but the gate is right in the middle. It's right in the center. And so you want to think about that area closing when you go down, and that area opening when you come up, so that the entire movement comes from this point to begin with. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but we need to get this energy really working here. And we'll talk about it more when we get to movement too. So anybody have a question about that? Four of you have worked with the qua squat before, but just a reminder of this emphasis that it's not just a physical movement of the muscles, it's an energetic movement in the gait. Bill? So obviously you want to keep your feet parallel. That's not really, I think, an issue probably for most of you. It's important that the feet don't move, because you want your energy from your upper body and your left and right channels to ground in your feet. And when your feet are moving all over the place, that's not possible. The other thing is that as you go down, you want to make sure that your kneecaps don't thrust forward. They stay virtually still. Now, obviously, that can't happen if you don't start from your base level. So you remember that everything is done having released the quad to begin with and having arrived at your base level. And then the knees pretty much stay right where they are. And you want to keep the back of the knees open. So what will help is to use the quad squat to go up and down and not your quadricep muscles. So that's what we were talking before. Obviously, that's how weightlifters work. They use their quads, but ideally you want to use your quad and not your quadriceps. You want there to be a pass through energetically from your quad down to your feet, and as though your legs are empty fire hoses and water is just rushing through. Also, for those of you who can feel it, and I don't know whether that really is any of you at this point, but you can use your central channel to help guide this going down and coming up. which obviously the central channel, you remember, is moving right through the middle of the torso. Important that the crown of your head and the perineum stay connected. And so that's probably enough. Anybody have any? I'll let go of the qua here unless somebody has a further question about it. Okay. So the biggest single difference between movement 1 and movement 2 is that in movement 1, as you will perhaps remember, your arms are moving out and in a vertical circle, out and in. The big difference is that when you go to movement 2, the plane of that circle changes. You're still working with circles, but where they go is different. In movement 2, your arms, blah, 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 said all that. The arm movement in movement 2 actually will appear with minor variations in several of the movements in Gods. So we're working on extending the mind through your body as you do your practice, or you have been in your practice in movement 1. And in movement 2, you're going to start from that base and begin to extend your mind even more strongly inside your body. And hopefully with each progressive movement of the 6 movements in Gods, get your nervous system to relax more until somewhere in the middle of Gods, the extending of your mind is going to give you the ability to directly relax your nervous system. This is going to be done by your mind traveling inside your body. So I want to start with another standing practice. And so everybody arise and find a comfortable position. Close your eyes and let yourself feel very, very quiet. And ask yourself a very simple question. Do your nerves have a buzz? Do they have a buzz? Do you feel anything maybe like bumblebees or some other similar sound or vibration? So that's tension inside your nervous system, as well as it is incomplete signals trying to go through your nervous system. They're intermittent. They're intermittent faults. They're intermittent breaks in the transmission of data through the channels of your nervous system. But most people aren't quite used to focusing on and just noticing what their nervous system is doing. So just feel what's happening in your nervous system. So the first thing As you start, it's just getting your mind inside your body. And being able to direct your chi through your body. Now, along with that, you want to try and feel your nervous system. If you can't get your mind inside your body, you're going to have a really hard time feeling your nervous system. But let's say you can get your mind inside your body. So let your mind travel from the crown of your head through your nervous system down to the bottom of your feet. And first, just recognize if there is a buzz, if there's tension, or if there's shaking. Like the old rock song, there's a whole lot of shaking going on. And let your mind go through your nervous system. And just recognize what it is doing. Don't try and change anything. Don't care about it, just recognize it. If you're in Hawaii, you can tell it's hot. If you're in the Arctic, you know it's really cold. So just recognize it. Are you in Hawaii, or could you possibly be in the Arctic? Recognize the actual state of affairs of your nervous system. And going again from the crown of your head down to the bottom of your feet, and then back up to the crown of your head. And this can take quite a while at first. With practice can become quite quickly. And you'll be able to feel your entire nervous system all at once. And now from the crown of your head, having your mind extending inside your body, have your mind go through your nervous system and release anything that doesn't feel good, so that your nervous system softens. Nerves at a high pitch often feel hard. It's the normal experience of most people, so just soften. Look at now and do the movements in your eyes. The ability of your mind to be able to feel what's going on with those movements as you're doing them. Whether it needs to be relaxed will become obvious. Someone else can tell you that you're not doing it right, but that's not a solution. Solution is to be able to actually feel what's going on and adjust it. Just slowly open your eyes and just relax. And just watch me for a moment. So when we begin to work on movement 2, you want to start by getting your mind to extend through your body. Feel it sinking down. Feel the energy dropping. Be aware of your nervous system softening. You begin by going into a qua squat and allowing the arms to round until the arms cross in front of the dantian. And then as you open and come up, they rise through the center and go out to the sides. And then you close, going back into your qua squat. One of the things to notice here is that the coordination here is a little different, in that only about 1/4 of the movement is bending. And 3/4 of the movement is straightening. And just as we talked about in movement 1, you want the bending of the arms and the legs to coordinate and the straightening of the arms and legs to coordinate. So let's try it. So let's take a moment. You had your mind extending through your body a moment ago, so I'm presuming it probably will not be too difficult to return there. And then when you're ready to just do movement 2, allow yourself to release down. And how far you go here, remember, is just a 70% release. And you want that movement to round the arms so that the wrists cross and the hands are roughly out in front of your dantian. And then as you are coming up, they are coming up through the center and circling out. And in this case, they go out to the side with the palms facing outward. So the fingers are lifted, the wrists are bent. The We need to open the wrists so that the palms can face out. Notice that my arms are slightly forward. They are not at the side. I'll just throw out the movement 2, they're here. The movement 4, they're here. And movement 5 and 6, they're here. So they're not, those planes of movement will be somewhat different. We'll talk about that more later. So you're bending, sinking down, releasing, and then rising, opening. And you want to really, as we did before, think about coordinating legs and arms together. And just pause a moment at this point. So one of the things you're doing here is feeling the extent of your etheric body. So you're opening to that, wherever that may be. And then gathering that energy in. And coming up. And we're inhaling on the bend. And exhaling. Straighten. Make sure that the difficult part of this coordination is that we often want to straighten the legs before we have completed straightening the arms, and they are both complete here. Yeah. Another question. Okay. So we'll talk more about twisting in back in movement 1. We didn't really address that, but here the twisting actually becomes a little more apparent and a little more important. So you are twisting in to this point, and then you are twisting out all the way to this point. So another little piece to try to make come together. One of the other things is that you want to make every transition very smooth. And this one at the bottom can be a little difficult because you can get here and oh, what do I do now? Oh yeah, I want to go here. So getting that to round from this point, notice that I go a little bit forward, which lets that movement continue its curve. So the energy keeps moving. We pause for a moment. So all three of you tend, quite well you're doing just fine getting to this point, but all three of you tend to start up without having done any twisting at all. And it's twist, twist, in, out, out, out. The out starts instantly, smoothly.
Shockingly.
Shockingly,
Yeah.
okay.
Not so, obviously, but
Yeah. So play with it a little bit. Let me check on Richard here. Okay, so watching Richard makes me want to say another piece. So everybody's starting to make sure that you don't get to this point and bring this movement up close to the body. It's moving out, 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 out. And the notice that there is an arc at the top of the movement. What I'm seeing happening to a couple of you is you get to about here and it's straight out. It's not. It comes up somewhere around here and still has a little arc out and into it so that you don't lose the circularity. It doesn't have to go high. That's not necessarily the purpose of movement 2, but it does need to have that continued circle in the movement. And part of straightening after you've bent is going out. And bending is coming in. So think of that, those two aspects of this.
And twisting is continuous.
Absolutely. Anybody have a question? Okay. So,
David, I have a question.
oh yeah, Richard, go.
You had said earlier that something that it seems to me that the bending and stretching is 50-50 for me. And you had said that it was set 30-70. I didn't quite process.
Yeah. It depends how you think of it. So if you think of this as two circles that your arms are making here,
Right.
You have a quarter of the circle, and then you have 3/4 of the circle. The actual time involved is not 50-50, but it is more in the straightening than it is in the bending. It doesn't have to be
Okay.
saying it has to be 25-75 or 30-70.
Okay. And I also have to focus because for some reason my breath tends to want to go backwards. I want to breathe in on my way out and out on my way in. So I have to remember not to do that.
Right.
I try to remember that usually when you're coming toward the center, you're breathing in. And when you're going away, you're breathing out.
Yep.
So that's just me, I'm sure.
No, it's not
No, it's not, Richard. Having been in class with this and also having taught it before, no, you're not the only one. Absolutely. It's just a matter of practice.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Sure.
that's one of the challenges I mentioned earlier, so, yeah, I understand.
Other questions at the moment on this? I think we'll stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Good.
We have 2 weeks to work on this.
You have 2 weeks. to work on this. Yes, you do. And don't worry about the transition from 1 to 2. We'll work on that next time we get together. You can play with it. That's fine, but don't worry about it.
Have a good trip.
Actually, we've decided because of the Delta variant.
Oh,
we're
We're
not
not
gonna
going.
go.
That's understandable.
They're also having
Yeah.
surges in California.
Oh, everywhere.
We don't want to be 6
Yeah.
hours on a plane.
Yeah.
It just suddenly seemed not to make sense.
Yeah. Everything is just-
That's a hard but good decision, I think.
Yeah, we're very disappointed to say
Yeah.
the least, but I think it's sensible.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, thank you for understanding, but I'm still,
Still need a break.
I'm still going to take a little bit of a break, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Practice, practice, practice. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you. Have some nice restful relaxation.
I will do my best.
Okay, bye. Bye-bye.
See you.
Love to Jane. I hope she's recovering from her back problem.
Yeah, she's doing very, very well, actually. You saw Trish yesterday, so she's that really helped.
Good.
She's got a ways to go to complete her recovery, but she is definitely improving.
Good. We'll give her our love.
I will.
Oh,
Thank you.
We'll talk with you later.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
take care.